Good morning, everybody. Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so I'm facing the heat today. It's the first time I've been out in this heat and with the intention of getting out and doing what I normally do, and probably over 6-7 days, man. To be honest with you, I've been really ducking the heat last week because it was pretty intense, but it gets to a point where it's like I don't want to be stuck in the house either. That's not what I've been doing on this side of town all this time, and it's not like I want to be in the house. Circumstances were making it so that I was probably better in the house. But today, according to the thermostat, is going to be the coolest day we'll probably have for the next week and a half. Like, it's going to be 93 plus from here on out. I think today's high is supposed to be like 87. So, figured, hey man, this is a perfect day. It's a Monday. Let me get out the house and just do what I would love to do every day if the weather was decent. It's funny how I don't mind getting out when it's raining. I rarely duck the rain, but when it comes to this heat, I try to steer clear of it. But not today, man. Not today. I'll try to get over to the cooler side of town, be in Hollywood or something like that. I'm pretty sure it ain't no hotter than 80 degrees over there. So that's ultimately what it is, man. Just getting out, getting some exercise, and pushing myself to be a little stronger in regards to my exercise in the house because of the lack of walking. So if anything, just trying to make up for it today, man. Get some of that walking in that I've been missing. Yeah, I hope everybody's having a good day, man. I didn't really have too much I wanted to talk about. I've been watching stuff this morning. Since it ain't no real basketball conversations going on, teams kind of just playing summer league ball not very well, and you know, it's people are getting ready for the Olympics, so that's kind of the only conversation in the NBA. I was kind of watching some different type of content this morning, getting caught up on stuff the internet's talking about, and to be honest with you, it got so bad. Some of the content was so heavy, talking about violence in different communities and stuff like that. I just like, man, let me turn this off, man. It gets to a point where you don't want to hear about violence, you know what I mean? It's like, I get it, it's happening, but to hear bloggers glorify it and talk about it, you know, showing all types of different stuff, just gets to a point where it's like, I don't know, man, maybe it's because I'm getting older. I think some of it has to do with the genocide itself that I've been witnessing for the last 176 days. It ain't something I'm seeking out. You know, content talking about somebody got shot and the rappers' funerals and stuff like that. It's just like, yo, man, I'm not interested in this anymore. Maybe I was at one point because, you know, it does speak about what's going on in our community and as black people and things like that, but I just didn't want to hear about that no more. This car's kind of cool. It's kind of cool and stuff for sale. Man, North Hollywood, if anybody interested. This thing nice, man. Definitely did a good paint job. Who knows how it's doing on the interior, but I like the paint job they did on it. It's definitely smooth. Cool things you see outside. That's why I definitely want to get out the house. Did not want to be in there today. I didn't want to be in there any of these days I last was in the house, to be honest with you. It wasn't like I was feeling secluded in a isolated mindset. I really wasn't. And just between the metro cost and the heat, I felt it was not really necessary to just be going out like I did in the first half of my tenure here in North Hollywood. But I would like to be out more than I have been, you know, that kind of thing. So hey man, it feels good to be out. It's getting hotter right now as I speak, but I got plenty of paper towels and water to hold me down. Hopefully it doesn't get as hot as it did when I was walking around last week aimlessly trying to buy a bag of rice. That should have been put off for another day because it was like 95 degrees, and valley heat in the 90s like that feels like it's 106 for whatever reason. So Wednesday, from what I understand, today's a Monday, Wednesday will be that hot. It's going to be about 97 degrees. So you can pretty much bet I'm going to be in the room that day. I ain't even trying to deal with it. But yeah, man, love the fact that I got an air conditioned room. That's what it is. If the room didn't have no air conditioning in it, I probably would be getting out trying to get to Hollywood every day or Santa Monica or something like that, where it would be cooler. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, got to beat the heat when you live in the valley, and I'm not used to that. But yeah, back to what I was talking about, man. It's just violence, man. So much violence. People losing their lives over the street stuff. It's just terrible, man. And then the violence you see in your phone with Israel targeting children, it just gets to a point where it's like, yo, I want to kind of protect my spirit from some of this stuff, man. It got to a point where I started to feel my energy going down as I'm listening to this stuff, man. It's like, you just start feeling like, man, I don't even want to go outside. Like, wait a minute, no, I do want to go outside. This stuff is always going on. And it's up to us to guard our thoughts, guard our mind with prayer, and try to do the best we can to steer clear of the negativity. If you're on negativity, people need to be steering clear of you, because you really will destroy the energy of people and ultimately destroying lives being that way. And it's a web that I don't want to be in personally. As I grow into my 40s, I don't want to have nothing to do with that type of energy. I really don't. It ain't cool to me. It ain't cute to me. I didn't get this far into my life as a black man being that way. If I had been that way, I'd probably be gone already. And so that's just how I feel about it, man. But it's all about surviving, man. There's a lot of things that we cannot see that may be ahead. Good things, opportunities you want to be a part of. You want to have a future dabbling in negativity and speaking of death and all of that. You're welcoming that energy into your life. You're welcoming what comes with being that way into your circumference, dissing the dead and all different types of stuff that people tend to do in our culture. It's not harmless, man. It's playing with people's pain and all different types of different energies. You're welcoming it in your life. I think about Julio Fulio, the rapper who recently was shot and killed, and what ultimately his memory really is. His legacy is making fun of dead people. Only for him to be a dead person, people making fun of him. I mean, how many times do we have to see this before we realize the correlation between speaking of death and meeting up with it? That's why I'm like, man, live, fight for something that matters. Speak about good things that you want in your life. Just talk as if things that are not will become in positive ways, so that you can welcome that into your life. Because death gonna come regardless, that's promised. But if you want to expedite that process, you know, with your mouth, you definitely gonna see what comes of that. It ain't harmless. It's not harmless at all. So that's what I've come to understand in living. You want to be of living. You want to be of life, of good energy, positive energy, supporting people and supporting and welcoming appreciation for good things that come, man. That's the type of talk. Not talking of death, not talking of evil and all of these different things that bring you that energy. Hey, buddy, what's up? Hey. The little dog was jumping at the man ahead of me. I already saw what his energy was on. He's a very aggressive little dog, but I don't know, man. It comes down to it. It's like the speaking of positive things. The only time I really don't want to talk about positive things is when I'm trying to raise awareness to the evil that I'm seeing in this genocide, which is so very important, and I think that the Lord wants me to do that. And I think that the God I serve doesn't look at people and separate them like Israel is doing, like white supremacy does. He doesn't do that. And when it does that, it's waging war against him. And so he made me not compromise one of the few entities, it seems, and although we're plenty, it is few in the place I'm in, that is not compromised to the point where we won't speak about it for fear of losing what we have. I'm not one of those people. You know what I mean? So I can use my voice to talk about how evil Israel and the American government and many others who are behind this genocide actually are. And the warped way that they're trying to manipulate minds into believing that what they're doing is righteous and that they're victims. It's warped. You know, saying that they're indigenous to land that they're not from. It's warped. You know, and when I speak like that, I'm not welcoming death into my life. I'm welcoming the completion of what it is my purpose is while living through this as a grown person, watching children suffer the ills of grown men. I don't equate that to speaking of death and welcoming death into my life. I equate that to making God happy and doing what I know is right in the presence of a wrongdoing society. The world wants to mold itself into what it wants to be, and the Lord still exists. People want to say that evil is good and good is evil and righteousness is betrayal of them and all different types of stuff that Zionists really are about. 270 something days of killing people, over 180,000 people murdered, and they want to talk about 7,000 of their own were killed, and that's too much, but don't give a damn about the almost 200,000 people that have been slaughtered. It's warped. And so there needs to be someone who will dabble in conversations about that, for the presence of the nature of what is warped around us and how it's effectively kept people quiet. And so no, I can't out of one mouth and say that you shouldn't speak of death, and in the other mouth not tell you why I speak of death so much on this channel as it pertains to that genocide. It's because that's necessary. That's necessary. In a sense that if we don't speak about it, then we're just further playing into that for which is warped, for which is against God in every real way. And so that's why I speak on it the way that I do, man. Targeting children, that's craziness to me, man. And I don't really know how you justify that. I don't know how you can convince people who are not warped into the thinking that you think that this is something that we should align with or be okay with because of whatever power you may or may not have. You know, my mother raised me to believe, don't ever let a bully cower you into a corner for the strength that it has or the power that it has. If it's big or if it's powerful, if it has a lot, you can't let it think that its behavior against you is effective. Now, that doesn't mean doing stupid stuff, putting yourself in a position to be a target or being aggressive when you're not being provoked by that bully, but just the same understanding that that bully bring that energy toward you, that you ain't having it. That's how I was raised. So in the presence of this being a bullying type situation from Israel, using its power and its agreements with governments all over the world to back us into a space where we refuse to speak about the evil that they do for it as it is, and will continue to look at people who are holding them accountable, who are fearless in the presence of their bullying, as if they're wrong for holding them accountable. Now that goes against what it is I've been taught is how you handle that situation and handle that behavior. That's not how you don't let a bully who 9 out of 10 times is driven by fear and paranoia and an aggressive defensive mechanism that it has very little control over in a lot of cases, continue to be justified in that aggression. For you understand something that bully doesn't, and that is that the bully don't have to behave that way in order to be safe. And if anything, that bully is not safe in behaving that way, because it then puts a target on others' backs, on its back rather, from others who may fear it or not fear it. You ever heard of the nature of a cat when it's backed up against the wall? And when it's injured and it ain't got nowhere to go, it's gonna come out clawing. I was always told if someone fears you, you are at the mercy to a degree to that fear being weaponized against you. It's very dangerous. Because not only is that for which I just described in place, but the spontaneity of when it will strike. It's one of the most unpredictable things possible, is when a person who's afraid of you is going to strike back and muster up the courage or the frustration of being bullied by you, when it finally going to strike. It's hard to time something like that. It's hard to predict something like that. You think you win in the battle every day, day 768 of you bullying this person, all of a sudden they catch you slipping. You think it's a routine beatdown of them, all of a sudden they pull out something you didn't know they had. All of a sudden they muster enough courage to hit you the right way. Suddenly you a victim to them. Don't instill fear in people, because when a fear is faced, you, that for which is scary, can't predict when that fear is going to win its battle against itself. You don't know when a person gonna finally say enough is enough. I'm gonna stand up against you. It makes you fat and happy in a sense of your strength against it. So you become weakened, just like in any other aspect of life where you're fat and happy. And I think about that story that I'm hearing about right now, about little Dirk's son who shot his stepfather. No telling what that kid had seen and witnessed, and the frustration that that kid had dealt with leading up into that moment. That man thought he was safe, doing whatever was going on in that situation. He thought he was safe, even though he had guns in his pockets. He had his guns in his pockets. In an altercation with his wife, in the presence of their son and several others, and that son reached into his pocket, pulled out his gun, and shot him with his own damn gun. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You never know when somebody finally gonna stand up to your BS. You never know when somebody who's afraid of you, who you got the upper hand on every single day, is gonna find a way to face what it is that you are. You gotta understand. There's two things you're doing when you're bullying somebody every day. You're putting them through something traumatic, and you're potentially building a resilience to them facing fears that you put them through every single day. That's something that you can't relate to, because you're not facing what terrifies you every day. If anything, you're running from it. So you don't know what type of resilience you're building within that of which you put fear in. You don't know what type of strength they have to go through when they face the trauma that is you and your bullshit every day. It ain't nothing for them to face fears, because you put them through it every day. It ain't nothing for them to face uncomfortable situations, because you put them through it. You are a training mode for how to deal with the terrified. Where is your training for such? You fat and happy. You ain't never afraid of nothing. You make sure you ain't afraid of nothing, because you're always instilling the fear. And when the fear comes, you deal with it a lot worse than that of whom you put it through. These are the type of things they don't teach you. You should fear being a bully. Why? Because a bully is putting somebody through fear every day, and that person's getting better and better and better at dealing with that fear. Potentially. Depending on what type of resilience is built up in them from what it is you put them through. Depending on what type of spirit they actually have, which a lot of times you're going to misjudge who it is you're doing this to because of their stature or because of their money or whatever. So you think that because they don't have a lot or because they're not very big, that they're not big in their heart. What you don't realize is you building up a heart that could potentially be bigger than yours. To be better at dealing with fear than you will ever be, just by putting them through that. Type of things they don't teach. So when I tell you guys that I walk around fearless in a sense that I don't mind talking about these type of things, it's because I understand these type of things. Stuff was instilled in me somehow. It's a certain wisdom to fear that for which makes me fat and happy. Fear that for which makes me scary to others. I don't like being feared. Because I feel like I'm surrounded by a bunch of cats with their back against the wall, injured, and they could come out scarring me any moment. I ain't safe when everybody fear me. Now I'm at the mercy of the loyalty of those who surround me. Those who I may have around me to protect me. A lot of people think because they have a big army that they safe to talk big, to act big, or whatever the case may be. What you don't realize is when somebody realizes that you ain't worth it, they start looking for ways to get around you. Maybe take your place in the strength circumstance, whatever your power is. They want to take that power. They'll backdoor you because they realize deep in their heart that you ain't ish, so to speak. they also too ain't ish, so they probably trying to figure out how they could backdoor you. This type of stuff is what happens when you have a big army, but you don't have a good reputation. And you talking big and bad, you got 1 million army soldiers behind you that make you strong. What you don't realize is one of them probably gonna turn on you. And the more of them there, the more opportunities you had to be turned on. The more opportunities you had to be backdoors, the more of them there is watching you be as you are, the more opportunities it is in each one of them to turn on you for being the way that you are. That's why being stand-up is the safest thing in the world. Not being a bully even when you're big and strong is the safest thing in the world. Because you're more likely to be loved and supported. You're more likely to have more of them watching your back for the 1 or 2 that would turn their back on you. Instead of having the whole conglomerate of them saying, man, I don't respect this dude. I may see his power. I may appreciate that he could instill fear in others, but at the end of the day, when is he gonna turn on me? Instead of looking for the mole in your outfit, like people who have loved ones really do. I got a strong friend, he's leading the way, and I know that somebody next to me ain't in his favor. If he's solid toward me and solid toward the people I love, I'm gonna be looking for that mole. I'm gonna bring him that mole instead of saying, yeah, I'll take a bribe from that mole. This dude ain't ish. I ain't never gonna be given what I'm supposed to be given. I don't respect this dude. I may see something coming out the corner headed for him, but I ain't gonna give him a heads up. Type of stuff they don't teach you. Evil ain't never gonna protect itself. I keep telling y'all, man. You engage in evil energy, you let the devil control you, he gonna leave you vulnerable in ways that you ain't gonna figure out until well after he hits you. Well after he hits you. You be like, damn, so it was this behavior that ultimately welcomed my ending. So many times that's where people end up having their fate. Never see it coming. Especially those who love to surround themselves with others and then feel big and bad with that. You ain't that big and bad unless all of those people, or a good 99% of those people, can at least look at you and say that's somebody that we should be following. Some of the people still gonna follow you off right toward the cliff, and then they're gonna push you off of it. Because they know that you wasn't never nobody to follow any damn way. So that's why I tell these bullies with big armies, you're leaving the back door open just by being the way you are. And you can look over your shoulder a million different ways, but what's coming your way, you still ain't gonna see it coming. Because the very thing that powers you to be that way is meant to destroy you. So you may have your eyes on a million different things, but you needed 1,000,001. And that's why I tell people, don't be a bully. Don't be fat and happy as it pertains to, I'm the strongest, biggest, and baddest because I got the baddest people around me and everybody supports me and my crew so I can talk crazy to any old body, push people around because it's strength in numbers. It ain't strength in numbers, fam. Not unless you holding your weight in those numbers. As I was always taught, feed the wolves. If you're going to be out in the streets, you better feed the wolves or they're going to feast off you. Wisdom that often isn't taught to young people who be running around out here. They learn the hard way and end up bumping their heads or losing it entirely. So that's why I'm on the mindset. I'm of the mindset. Stay positive, man. If you want to know what it's about, if you're gonna talk about death, make sure that the death that you're talking about is meant to raise awareness for that for which needs awareness always for. Otherwise, don't be welcoming that stuff into your life, man. Don't. Because if God ain't empowering you, then the enemy is, and you best believe the enemy wants to see you destroyed. It ain't no two ways about it. And if you're not aware of what the enemy's about or who the enemy is, you need to understand that this is a destructive entity that's meant to not only betray you, but torture you all the way out. Torture you all the way to your death. Betray you, embarrass you, make you look foolish, all of the different energies that you don't like. All the different realities that you don't want no part of. Be terrified, embarrassed, all these different types of energies. He wants to do all of that to you, expose you for the darkness you do, all of it. That's what the enemy's really about. He ain't meant to exalt you or make you powerful or make you feel strong or make you resilient to that for which hurts your feelings. Ain't none of that what he's about. He's about the opposite of that. Making you feel like that scared cat, but declawed, just the same. And so I'm telling y'all, man, we got to get our minds into understanding. I may not know the truth about religion and how it correlates to helping a human being. I know of my Christianity. I haven't studied anybody else's religion, but I can tell you we all face the same enemy, man. We all face the same devil. I can tell you that. That much I'm certain of. And so if you want to do his bidding, you best believe you're going to suffer his imagination, whatever it is that comes to his mind about making your life miserable and about ending your life. You're going to suffer what comes to his mind. And you don't want that. No matter how many people try to glorify or magnify what they perceive as power in devilish energy, it ain't nothing powerful about it. It's meant to destroy you and whatever you touch. And I don't care how common it is, it's meant to do the same thing. So if everybody around you engaging in that energy, they ain't no good. They headed off a cliff. And don't think for a second that a million people can't head off the same cliff. Don't think for 1 second. We've seen it many times, in many different ways, where a lot of people get rounded up together and end up going to the same place. So sometimes it is in your best interest to stand alone, away from what the status quo is, the consensus is, what everybody else is doing. If you know that you shouldn't be doing something, I don't give a damn if the entire world is doing it. You need to stand alone and do something else. And if we aren't teaching ourselves and our kids and those in our community this understanding, then we're really not leading them where they need to go. We're really not. Because you can definitely be wrapped up into an entire group that's going to hell. You can definitely do that. Something that exalts itself, yeah, you can do that. Or something that tries to weaponize a living God against innocent people, you can do that. We see that in so many different ways in our own country. Think entities that are not reactionary in nature, but aggressive and extending itself to be affecting everything around us. Not a reaction to some type of negative energy pointed at it, but just an entitlement about itself that wants to move and make the world fear it. Although it may have been given so much, it still feels like it wasn't given enough. Something that hasn't really been battle tested. So any small, slight disruption in its environment or in its life, suddenly it wants to act as if it's the worst victim the world has ever seen. We've seen that. People ain't even suffered as much as a hangnail. Have one hair plucked from their head, and all of a sudden they acting like everything that's ever happened to them is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone else. And now they need to act as if the only way they can see retribution for what happened to them is to annihilate everybody that doesn't look like them. We've seen these weak energies before. We know them when we see them. They fat and happy, man. So that's what I got to say to all you Zionists out there, all you white nationalists. It's exactly what you are. He had one hair plucked, and all of a sudden, everybody else's plight you never cared about, you were probably putting them through it. Because you were a bully who was putting people through fear instead of learning how to deal with fear that came your way, suddenly when you feel fear, you spiral. You act like you're the biggest victim that ever happened. Lying to yourself, out of touch for what the realities of real suffering is, but destined to face it just the same. For your lack of mercy upon others and your exhaustion of self and your brothers. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.